The news day continues here on One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. It's confirmed the African swine fever has reached Visayan shores. The first case of ASF in the region was detected in Leyte. Agriculture Regional Director Angel Enriquez said 4 out of the 7 samples collected from barangays Canaporong and Bunga in Abuyog, Leyte tested positive for ASF. Officials will now implement disease control measures such as depopulation and proper disposal of affected hogs on top of enforcing strong border control. Now 3 local veterinary quarantine checkpoints have been set up in the boundaries of Abuyog. To help mitigate the situation, the Agriculture Department urges hog owners to report any unusual swine mortalities. Residents of Calatagan, Batangas woke up to a magnitude 4.5 earthquake earlier today. Phoenix recorded the quake at 6:48 in the morning, 12 kilometers south and 73 degrees west of Calatagan. It has a depth of 135 kilometers and was felt at intensity 1 in Calatagan, Puerto Galera, Oriental Mindoro, and Plaridel, Bulacan. Phoenix is not expecting any damage and aftershocks from the quake. Meanwhile, Reuters report that the death toll from the stronger magnitude 6.2 in Indonesia has risen to 42. Victims were trapped under the rubble after several structures collapsed when the tremor hit late Friday night. Now, aside from the casualties, hundreds sustained injuries as dozens of aftershocks were felt following the initial earthquake 6 kilometers northeast of the town of Mahene in West Sulawesi. Now, about 15,000 people have fled their homes in fear of a tsunami. In 2018, thousands died after a tsunami struck following a magnitude 6.2 earthquake in the city of Palu. COVID-19 vaccines may be available for commercial use by the end of 2021. That's according to the Food and Drug Administration. Now, during the Senate's hearing on the country's vaccination program, FDA Director General Eric Domingo said that vaccine candidates undergoing clinical trials are currently on phase 3. Several vaccine developers have applied for emergency use in the country, such as UK's AstraZeneca and China's Sinovac. Only U.S. pharmaceutical firm Pfizer has been granted an EUA so far.
Yung full completion of phase 3 trials, mga 1 to 2 years. At sa ngayon, medyo matatapos na po yung first year. Ang pinakamaaga po siguro end of 2021 or mga hanggang middle of 2022.
Now here are the biggest stories from the dailies. PhilStar reports 1 out of 5 establishments in the Philippines fails to comply with the health and safety protocols. According to the data from the Labor Department, only 80% from a total of 72,000 establishments managed to follow the standards. But DOLE will not mete out punishments yet. Instead, the department vowed to help erring establishments, especially small entrepreneurs, to comply with the protocols. From Filipino Star ngayon, the Trade Department wants children aged 10 years old and above to be allowed out of their homes. The DTI says it wants to support the easing of age-based movement restrictions to help the country's economy recover. Trade Secretary Mon Lopez said children at this age can already understand and follow minimum health protocols in public spaces. At present, the IATF only allows persons aged 15 to 65 to go out of their homes. And this from the Freeman. Cebu City has prepared its lineup of activities for the celebration of Fiesta Señor, even with the cancellation of the ritual Sinulog Showdown. Cebu City Vice Mayor Michael Rama said they have prepared virtual activities from 9 in the morning until 7 p.m., the same time for the Sinulog Grand Parade in previous years. Organizers said that performances of Champions of the Street, dance competition, Sinulog-based category, and free interpretation category from previous years will be virtually showcased. The PNP is urging attendees of the annual Santo Niño feast tomorrow to practice discipline to avoid the spread of COVID-19 during the event. In an interview with 1PH sa Totoo Lang, PNP spokesperson Ildebrandi Usana said their experience during the traslasyon last week will serve as a guide for future religious activities. The health department warned that these gatherings may be considered super spreaders. But devotees of Santo Niño are still expected to flock churches despite the cancellation of the usual Sinulog celebration.
We are hoping similar to what happens sa traslasyon, the same din po na discipline ang ina-anticipate po namin sa mga mamayan.
Now, several priests have urged Catholics to celebrate this year's festivities and Mass online. Physical masses could also be canceled pending the advice from authorities. Likewise, Usana is hoping that families consider skipping this year's face-to-face festivities.
And we hope na, lalo na ngayon na pumasok na itong COVID-19 variant, baka with the pronouncement coming from the government no less, makikita ho natin na mas concerned sila sa kanilang health para maproteksyonan din po, hindi lang po sa sarili nila, pati na rin po sa kanilang pamilya.
Now we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching One News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Now here's a wrap of the biggest developments from around the world. The United Kingdom will close all travel corridors starting Monday to block the possible entry of new COVID-19 variants. Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a tightening of border as UK is grappling to control the third wave of the virus. This means all arriving passengers are required to undergo quarantine and present a negative COVID test result. The emergency measures will last for a month and will apply to all travelers, including British and Irish nationals. State capitals in America have doubled down on security following an FBI warning of a possible armed protest leading up to President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration this week. In Michigan, state police guards the Capitol in Lansing behind a metal fencing. Workers have also boarded up windows in Illinois while concrete barriers block the streets leading to New York's state capitol. Now, according to Reuters, the FBI received around 100,000 digital media tips of a potential unrest related to Biden's inauguration. Tensions leading to the ceremony are high following the riot in Washington led by supporters of outgoing U.S. President Donald Trump. Twice impeached U.S. President Donald Trump will reportedly live in Florida when his term ends in a few days. The outgoing president will skip his rival's inauguration and will fly to his Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida the morning of Joe Biden's takeover. Now, the controversial official will reportedly stay put at a Palm Beach resort for the foreseeable future. But his would-be neighbors have already started complaining, going as far as asking Palm Beach to prevent Trump's permanent stay in the area. Now, over 20,000 Guard members will be at Washington, D.C. to secure the inauguration of President-elect Joe Biden on January 20. So how will Biden's inauguration look like? Let's find out from this report by Bloomberg.
The downtown Washington area is just on lockdown. A security net has just been draped over the city. So you have National Guard troops in the streets. Some of them are armed. You have law enforcement personnel. You have all kinds of different federal agencies, police forces from other jurisdictions. And so there is a massive, massive security presence. And the inauguration isn't going to look like anything that it's looked like before.
How big of a deal is this? I mean, put this into context for us. Here we are in America's capital. What's the symbolism here?
Well, I mean, the symbolism is that you have an unprecedented lockdown, and you have the forces that would be going to war in the nation's capital, while there's a drawdown abroad in Iraq and Afghanistan. There's a buildup in Washington, D.C. And so, I mean, it's really amazing. And, you know, behind the scenes, you have this massive effort underway to try to track these plots and what extremists are planning. And law enforcement sources that I'm talking to say they feel pretty confident that nothing is going to get through the perimeter in Washington, D.C., where the inauguration will be. What they're worried about is attacks outside the perimeter and on soft targets, and especially in state capitals around the country.
Chris, I want to get your thoughts on what we just heard from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi at her weekly press conference. She announced that she's asked for a review into Capitol security, and if lawmakers aided in the attack, action may have to be taken. Give us your thoughts on what you heard from the Speaker just now.
Yeah, I think that's not too surprising given everything that we've been learning in the past week or so. There has been a number of revelations about how the siege on the Capitol was carried out, and the concerns that there were people either inside the Capitol Police Force or that there were sympathizers that were helping with the riot, and so. There's got to be a review, and that's what Pelosi is putting forward. There's a whole number of investigations that are now going to take place. There's the Capitol Police investigation, but also the Justice Department Inspector General announced that they're going to review what the FBI was doing, what they knew, how they, did they share information appropriately. The Defense Department watchdog is looking into this, and so there's a whole slew of investigations that are going to play out in the coming months.
Chris, I just want to end with moving outside of Washington, D.C. We've heard reports that capitals around the country are advised to be on alert. What are you learning from your sources about how law enforcement will be present on Inauguration Day outside of Washington?
Yeah, so law enforcement sources are telling us that they have notified their counterparts at the state and local level in key areas that they need to be on alert. Certain states are having their National Guard be activated. The FBI has identified, some specific states that have the most concern, like Michigan. You remember that there was a plot to kidnap the governor of Michigan and execute her. So there's significant concern right now, and all of law enforcement across these state capitals are on high alert.
Now, the Philippines is hailed as the second most Instagrammable place in the world, according to international travel website Big 7. In its 50 most Instagrammable places in the world 2021 list, Philippines ranked just behind Tokyo, Japan. Big 7 said our country is home to incredible natural wonders, such as an underground river and the tranquil rice terraces. The travel website adds the gram opportunities in the Philippines are endless, from the bustling city of Manila to the absolute oasis of Boracay. Other international destinations such as Paris, New York City, and Istanbul are also on the list. And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us later at 12 noon as we continue to monitor the day's biggest stories. You can also catch One News on Signal Play app. Register for a free account now at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.